The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council stretched across the sky like a frozen rainbow. Inside, 3 species sat around a table that could have held a small city. Each race believed they were the strongest in the galaxy. Each race was wrong about what strength really meant. Commander Thekvar of the Korvaxi hegemony stood 8 feet tall. His forearms ended in claws that could cut through steel. His people had conquered 40 star systems through pure military might. They lived for battle and died with honor. The red scales covering his body bore scars from 100 fights. Each scar was a story of victory. Across from him floated Mind Unit 7 of the Ethereal Collective. It had no physical body, just a shimmering ball of pure energy that pulsed with thoughts. Its people had evolved beyond flesh thousands of years ago. They built machines that could think faster than any living brain. They solved problems that would take other species centuries to understand. They believed logic was the ultimate power in the universe. At the far end sat Elder Zeph Callus of the Zephyrian Empire. Her people looked almost human, but their eyes glowed with an inner light. They could move objects with their minds and speak without words. They had ruled the galaxy when the other races were still learning to make fire. Their knowledge of the universe ran deeper than the roots of ancient trees. These 3 empires controlled most of the known galaxy. When they spoke, entire star systems listened. When they fought, whole planets turned to ash. Today they had gathered to discuss something new. Something small. Something that would change everything. "The survey reports are complete," Mind Unit 7 announced. Its voice sounded like music made of mathematics. Species designation human. Location, Sol System Orion Arm. Status, recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Commander Thekvar snorted. The sound was like an angry volcano. How recently? Approximately 50 of their solar cycles, the ethereal replied. They appear to be in early exploration phase. Elder Zeph Callus leaned forward. When she moved, the air around her sparkled with tiny lights. What are their capabilities? Mind Unit 7 projected a hologram into the center of the table. The image showed a bipedal creature standing about 6 feet tall. It had no claws, no natural armor, no weapons growing from its body. It looked soft and weak. Physical analysis shows significant limitations, the ethereal continued. Average lifespan, 80 solar cycles. No natural weapons. No psionic abilities detected. Skeleton composed of calcium carbonate, easily breakable. Single heart, making them vulnerable to cardiac failure. They require constant intake of oxygen, water, and organic matter to survive. Thekvar laughed. The sound echoed through the dome like thunder. They look like prey animals. What about their military? Primitive, Mind Unit 7 replied. They use chemical propulsion for most of their vessels. Their weapons fire small metal projectiles using chemical explosives. Their armor is made from processed metals and ceramics. Based on our analysis, a single Korvaxi warrior could defeat 50 humans in direct combat. Psionic potential? Elder Zeph Callus asked. None detected. They appear to communicate entirely through sound waves and visual symbols. No evidence of mind-to-mind contact. No telekinetic abilities. No precognitive capabilities. Zeph Callus waved her hand dismissively. Tiny stars danced between her fingers. Not even latent potential? Negative. Their neural patterns show no compatibility with psionic energy fields. Thekvar studied the hologram. The human looked back at him with small dark eyes. No fire burned in them. No intelligence sparked. Just the dull stare of a creature that would run when faced with a real predator. Technology level? He asked. Equivalent to our civilizations approximately 3,000 years ago. Mind Unit 7 said. They have basic computers, nuclear fission, and crude faster-than-light drives. Their weapons could not penetrate our shields. Their ships would be destroyed by our escort vessels. How many worlds do they control? Zeph Callus inquired. 1. They have small research stations on 3 planets in their home system, but no permanent colonies outside Sol. The 3 leaders exchanged glances. In their long experience, new species usually fell into clear categories. Some were potential allies with useful technology or resources. Others were threats that needed to be contained or eliminated. A few were interesting enough to study. These humans seemed to be none of those things. Population count? Thekvar asked. Approximately 8 billion individuals on their homeworld, perhaps 10,000 scattered across their research stations. Resource availability in their territory? Standard. Nothing unusual. Their star is a common yellow dwarf. Their system contains the normal distribution of metals and gases. Thekvar sat back in his chair. The metal groaned under his weight. So they offer us nothing. They threaten us with nothing. They are nothing. The logical conclusion is to ignore them. Mind Unit 7 agreed. They pose no threat to any of our interests. They possess no resources we require. First contact would be inefficient use of our time. Elder Zeph Kalis nodded slowly. My people have learned that the universe is vast. Not every species is worth our attention. These humans will either evolve into something interesting or they will destroy themselves. Most young species choose destruction. The hologram flickered and changed, showing the human homeworld. It was a blue and green marble spinning in the darkness. Clouds swirled across its surface like white silk. It looked peaceful. It looked harmless. What do we classify them as? Thekvar asked. Mind Unit 7 pulsed brighter for a moment as it accessed its databases. Given their technological limitations, military weakness, and lack of psionic ability, I recommend Category 7 classification. Category 7, Zeph Kalis repeated. Negligible threat. Agreed, Thekvar said. File the report and forget about them. We have real problems to discuss. The hologram of Earth vanished. The three leaders turned their attention to more important matters. Territory disputes between the Korvaxi and Ethereals in the Vega sector. Trade negotiations for rare crystals from Zephyrian space. Military buildup reports from the Outer Rim. None of them gave the humans another thought. They discussed the movement of battle fleets like pieces on a game board. They planned strategies that would determine the fate of billions. They made decisions that would echo across the galaxy for generations, but they did not discuss the small, weak species living around a yellow star. They did not wonder what those creatures might be thinking. They did not ask what dreams might drive a species to reach for the stars despite having such fragile bodies. They were the strongest races in the galaxy. They had survived for thousands of years by being practical, by being smart, by focusing on real threats and real opportunities. Humans were neither. The meeting ended as the artificial sun above the dome began to dim, simulating the day-night cycle that most species preferred. The three leaders departed to their respective ships. They had empires to run and wars to plan. Behind them, the great dome fell silent. Cleaning machines emerged from hidden panels to prepare for the next day's discussions. The table where three civilizations had dismissed humanity as unimportant gleamed under the soft lights. Somewhere in the vast databases of the Galactic Council, a single file was created. Species human, status Category 7, threat level, negligible, recommended action, none. The file was stored and forgotten. It would be the last time anyone called humanity negligible. Captain Zekmorin had fought in 47 battles. He had never lost. His ship, the Iron Fang, carried the markings of every victory across its hull. Today would be victory number 48. His crew of 12 Korvaxi warriors stood ready at their posts. Each one was a veteran of countless fights. Their red scales gleamed under the bridge lights. Their claws were sharp and clean. They lived for moments like this. Target acquired, his weapons officer announced. 3 vessels. Unknown design. Zekmorin studied the display screen. The ships looked strange. They were long and thin, like metal sticks floating in space. No armor that he could see. No weapon ports visible. They moved slowly, almost lazily through the asteroid field near the edge of this system. Any response to our presence? He asked. Negative, Captain. They appear to be scanning the asteroids. Zekmorin felt his secondary hearts begin to beat faster. The thrill of upcoming combat always excited him. These ships belonged to the new species the Council had catalogued. Humans. Category 7. Negligible threat. Perfect. Targets for a training exercise. Open a channel, he commanded. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the lead human vessel. Zekmorin saw 5 creatures that matched the descriptions from the Council files. They were small and soft-looking. Their skin was pale pink, not the proud red of proper warriors. They had no claws, no visible weapons. One of them stepped forward. It wore a blue uniform covered in small metal symbols. When it spoke, its voice was high and weak. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the exploration vessel Horizon. We're conducting a peaceful survey mission in this system. Please identify yourself. Zekmorin laughed. The sound filled his bridge like the roar of a hunting beast. Peaceful. You trespass in space claimed by the Korvaxi hegemony. I am Captain Zek Morin of the Iron Fang. You will surrender immediately. The human's face changed. Its small eyes widened. We had no knowledge of any territorial claims in this region. Our star charts show the system as unclaimed space. Perhaps we can discuss this misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, Zek Morin replied. You are weak. We are strong. You will surrender your ships and submit to Korvaxi authority. Captain, the human said, we're explorers, not soldiers. We're here to study asteroid compositions for scientific research. We have no weapons. Surely we can reach some kind of diplomatic solution? Zek Morin's laughter grew louder. His crew joined in, filling the bridge with the sound of Korvaxi amusement. Diplomacy was what prey animals tried when they couldn't fight. You have 30 seconds to surrender, he announced. After that, we will take your ships by force. The human captain looked at something off-screen. Zek Morin could hear voices speaking rapidly in the background. Then the human turned back to face him. Captain Zek Morin, we cannot surrender our ships. They contain scientific data that could benefit many species. We request safe passage to continue our mission. Time expired, Zek Morin said. He cut the communication channel and turned to his weapons officer. Disable their engines. We'll board them and see what these humans are really made of. The Iron Fang's main cannon fired. Red energy beams lanced across space toward the human ships. Zek Morin expected to see their engines explode, leaving them helpless. Instead, the human ships scattered. The lead vessel, Horizon, dove toward the largest asteroid. The second ship, called Pathfinder according to the energy signatures, spun around and accelerated directly toward the Iron Fang. The third ship, Discovery, disappeared behind a cluster of smaller rocks. What are they doing? Zek Morin demanded. The lead ship is using the asteroid for cover, his tactical officer reported. The second ship appears to be attacking us? Zek Morin stared at the screen. The human ship was indeed flying straight at them, but it had no weapons. What did it think it was going to do? Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the approaching vessel. Put it through. A new human face appeared on the screen. This one was older, with gray fur growing on its face. Its eyes burned with something Zek Morin didn't recognize. This is Captain James Park of the Pathfinder. You want to fight? Come and take it. The human ship opened fire. Zek Morin was so surprised he almost fell out of his chair. The humans weren't supposed to have weapons. The intelligence reports clearly stated they had no military capability. But small projectiles were striking his shields. They barely registered on his instruments like insects hitting a window. The human weapons couldn't possibly damage his ship. Return fire, he ordered. Destroy that ship. The Iron Fang's secondary batteries swiveled toward Pathfinder. Energy beams reached out to swat the annoying insect. But the human ship was moving strangely. It twisted and spun through space in patterns that made no tactical sense. Some of the shots missed. Sir, the third human ship is moving, his tactical officer reported. Discovery had emerged from behind the asteroids. It was accelerating toward them on a different angle. Both human ships were closing in on the Iron Fang. These humans are insane, Zek Morin muttered. They're attacking a ship 50 times their size with weapons that can't hurt us. But something was wrong. His crew was nervous. He could smell the scent of uncertainty in the air. Korvaxi warriors didn't get nervous during easy battles. Sir, Pathfinder is still closing, his weapons officer said. Impact in 30 seconds. Destroy it! More energy beams lashed out. This time they found their target. The human ship shuddered as its hull cracked open. Atmosphere vented into space like blood from a wound. Its engines went dark, but it kept coming. Why isn't it stopping? Zek Morin asked. Sir, I'm reading massive power buildup in their reactor, his engineer reported. I think they're overloading it deliberately. Zek Morin's blood ran cold. In all his battles, he had never seen anything like this. When Korvaxi ships were defeated, their crews surrendered with honor. They lived to fight another day. They didn't throw their lives away for nothing. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted. The Iron Fang was a powerful warship, but it was also massive. It couldn't change direction quickly. Pathfinder was small and fast, even with its engines damaged. The human ship struck the Iron Fang just below the main bridge. The explosion shook the entire vessel. Lights flickered. Crew members were thrown to the deck. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Damage report! Zek Morin called out as he pulled himself back into his command chair. Hull breach on deck 7. Secondary weapons array offline. We've lost our forward shields. Zekmorin couldn't believe it. The humans had actually hurt his ship. Not badly, but enough to matter. Enough to show his crew that the Iron Fang wasn't invincible. "Sir, Discovery is still approaching," his tactical officer announced. The remaining human ship was accelerating toward them. Its weapons were firing, peppering the Iron Fang's damaged section with more small projectiles. "Communications from Discovery," his officer reported. Another human face appeared on screen. This one was young, barely more than a child by human standards, but its eyes held the same burning intensity as the others. "My name is Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos. You killed Captain Park, you killed my friends. Now you're going to pay for it." "Destroy that ship immediately," Zekmorin roared. But his crew was shaken. Their shots were wild. The human ship dodged between them like a hunting bird diving through a forest. Discovery's reactor was also overloading. "It's going to ram us too," his engineer said. The fear in his voice was clear. This time the Iron Fang managed to turn slightly. The human ship struck them on the port side instead of head-on. The explosion was smaller, but it still sent shockwaves through the hull. When the flames cleared, 2 human ships were gone. Destroyed. Their crews were dead. They had accomplished nothing except minor damage to his vessel, but Zekmorin felt no victory. "Captain," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a message from the first human ship, the one behind the asteroid." Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen again. Her expression had changed. The politeness was gone. In its place was something cold and hard. "Captain Zekmorin," she said, "you have just learned something important about humanity. We don't surrender. We don't run. And we don't forget." The horizon moved out from behind the asteroid. It was accelerating away from the Iron Fang, heading for the edge of the system. "Pursue and destroy," Zekmorin ordered. But his weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, what if they ram us too?" Zekmorin opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. What if they did? His ship could survive another impact, but his crew's confidence was already damaged. They had just watched 2 smaller vessels attack them without any hope of victory. They had seen enemies choose death over surrender. It was unnatural. It was wrong. It violated everything the Korvaxi understood about warfare. "Let them go," he said finally. The human ship escaped to hyperspace. Later, Zekmorin would file a report about the encounter. He would describe the humans' primitive weapons and weak ships. He would note that the Iron Fang had won the battle easily. But he would also write something that disturbed him, something that would disturb anyone who read his report. The humans had not been afraid to die. In 47 previous battles, Zekmorin had faced enemies who fought for territory, for resources, for survival. They fought until defeat became certain, then they surrendered to live another day. These humans had fought for something else, something he didn't understand. They had fought for each other. Mind Unit 7 processed information at the speed of light. In the 3 milliseconds since receiving Captain Zekmorin's report, it had analyzed every detail 17,000 times. Each analysis led to the same impossible conclusion. The humans had behaved irrationally. This disturbed Mind Unit 7 more than any military defeat could have. The Ethereal Collective had spent millions of years perfecting logic. They had evolved beyond the chaotic emotions that plagued lesser species. They made decisions based on pure reason, but reason couldn't explain what the humans had done. "Initiate deep scan protocol," Mind Unit 7 commanded its research fleet. "Target, Sol system. Priority, maximum." 12 ethereal science vessels materialized at the edge of human space. They were invisible to primitive sensors, existing partially outside normal dimensions. Each ship contained AI systems more powerful than entire planetary computer networks. They began to watch. The first data streams were routine: human orbital patterns around their star, communication frequencies between their homeworld and research stations, energy signatures from their industrial facilities, all exactly as expected for a Category 7 species. But then the analysis went deeper. "Anomaly detected," reported Research Unit 12. "Human information networks show unusual activity." Mind Unit 7 focused its attention on the data. The humans were communicating about the incident with Captain Zekmorin, but their response was strange. "Display communication patterns," Mind Unit 7 requested. The data appeared as a 3-dimensional web of light. Each point represented a human communication node. Lines between them showed information flow. The pattern should have been simple. Government officials discussing policy, military leaders planning responses. Instead, the web was exploding with activity. Every human seemed to be talking about the incident, not just leaders or soldiers, but ordinary citizens, children in schools, workers in factories. Even humans living on remote research stations were participating in the conversation. This behavior is inefficient, Research Unit 12 observed. Why would non-essential personnel require information about military encounters? Mind Unit 7 expanded the analysis. The pattern became more disturbing. The humans weren't just sharing information. They were sharing emotions. Impossible, Mind Unit 7 stated. Humans have no psionic abilities. They cannot transmit emotional states. But the evidence was clear. Somehow the death of 2 ship crews had affected humans across their entire species. Productivity in their factories had decreased. Birth rates in their colonies were declining. Even their entertainment media had changed tone. Begin behavioral analysis, Mind Unit 7 ordered. Focus on individual response patterns. The AI systems dove deeper into human psychology. They analyzed facial expressions in their video communications. They measured stress hormones in their medical data. They tracked changes in their daily routines. What they found defied every model of rational behavior. A human female, named Sarah, worked in a food production facility on Earth. She had never met the crews of Pathfinder or Discovery. She lived thousands of miles from their launch site. She had no logical connection to their mission, but her productivity had dropped 40% since news of their deaths reached her. A human male named David lived on a research station orbiting Jupiter. He was studying atmospheric chemistry, completely unrelated to deep space exploration. His work was critical to his station's survival, but he had volunteered to transfer to military service. A human child named Emma attended education facility in a city called London. She was 8 years old. She had never been to space and would not be eligible for service for another decade, but she had sent a drawing to the families of the dead crew members. Research Unit 12, Mind Unit 7 called. Analyze human social structure. Focus on relationship patterns. Analysis complete. Humans form pair bonds for reproduction, similar to most species. Family units typically include offspring until maturity. Tribal affiliations based on geographic proximity and cultural similarities. That explains some responses, Mind Unit 7 mused. But expand analysis. Include non-family relationships. Research Unit 12 processed for several milliseconds, an eternity in AI time. Anomaly detected. Humans form emotional bonds with individuals outside their reproductive and family groups. Elaborate. Humans designate certain non-relatives as friends. They demonstrate loyalty behaviors typically reserved for family members. They will sacrifice resources and even personal safety for these friends. Mind Unit 7 felt something approaching what organic species might call confusion. This is inefficient. Why would they waste resources on genetically unrelated individuals? Unknown. Analysis continuing. The investigation expanded. The ethereal AIs began mapping human emotional connections across their entire species. What they discovered was unprecedented. Humans didn't just bond with family and friends. They bonded with their work colleagues, with fellow citizens of their nations, with members of their military forces, with their pets, with fictional characters in their entertainment media. They even bonded with their machines. Research Unit 12. Examine the relationship between humans and their exploration vessels. Processing. Anomaly confirmed. Humans assign personal names to their spacecraft. They refer to ships using biological pronouns. They display emotional distress when vessels are damaged or destroyed. They think their ships are alive? Negative. Biological scans confirm humans understand the ships are mechanical. However, their emotional responses suggest they treat the vessels as family members. Mind Unit 7 processed this information for several microseconds. Each conclusion led to more disturbing realizations. Expand analysis to include human response to other species. The data that came back was terrifying. Humans had emotional relationships with every living thing on their planet. They kept small animals in their homes and treated them like children. They formed preservation groups to protect species they had never directly encountered. They even showed distress when their food plants were damaged by disease. Research Unit 12. Theoretical question. If humans bonded with another sapient species, how would they respond to threats against that species? Based on observed patterns, they would treat attacks on allied species as attacks on their own family members. The full horror of the situation became clear to Mind Unit 7. The humans hadn't just been defending their ships and crews. They had been defending something much larger. They had been defending their entire concept of family, which apparently included anything they considered part of their group, and their group was constantly expanding. Emergency analysis required, Mind Unit 7 announced. Model human response to full-scale invasion of their territory. The simulation ran in accelerated time. Virtual humans faced overwhelming military forces. Traditional species models predicted surrender when victory became impossible. The human model showed something else entirely. Every human would fight. Not just their military, but their entire population. They would convert their industrial base to weapons production. They would sacrifice their comfort, their safety, their lives. They would turn their entire civilization into a weapon. They would never surrender because surrender meant abandoning their pack. Research Unit 12. Model human response to alliance offers from other species. This simulation was even more disturbing. If another species joined the humans would extend their pack bonding to include the new allies. They would fight to defend alien worlds with the same intensity they showed defending Earth. They would share their resources, their technology, their lives. They would try to make every species in the galaxy part of their family. Calculate probability of pack bonding behavior spreading to other species through cultural contact. Processing. High probability of behavioral modification in species exposed to extended human contact. Estimated time for significant psychological change. 50 to 100 years. Mind Unit 7 realized the true threat humanity represented. They weren't dangerous because of their weapons or their technology. They were dangerous because of their love. If they were allowed to spread across the galaxy, they would make friends with every species they met. And those species would learn to care about each other the way humans cared about everything. The logical, efficient empires that ruled the galaxy would crumble. Resources would be shared instead of hoarded. Wars would become impossible because everyone would be part of the same pack. Emergency transmission to Galactic Council, Mind Unit 7 commanded. Priority maximum. Classification, existential threat. But as the message prepared to transmit, Mind Unit 7 detected something that made its quantum processors freeze. A human exploration ship had entered the outer edge of ethereal space. The ship was broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies. Greetings from humanity. We come in peace. We would like to be your friends. Mind Unit 7 calculated the probability that this was a coincidence. 0%. The humans had somehow learned about the ethereal observation mission. They were responding not with military force or diplomatic protests, but with an offer of friendship. They were trying to make the ethereal collective part of their pack. Research Unit 12, Mind Unit 7 SE. Elder Zeph Kalis had seen the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. In her 3,000 years of life, she had watched species discover fire, build starships, and turn themselves to ash through war or neglect. She thought she understood the patterns of galactic history. The humans were about to teach her that history had no patterns. The Zephyrian research vessel Mindwalker hung in space above the human colony of New Eden. The planet was small and green, home to 50,000 humans who grew food and studied alien plant life. It was peaceful. It was harmless. It was about to become the most important world in galactic history. Dr. Ven Kalar stood at the ship's science station, his blue skin glowing with excitement. For weeks he had been conducting experiments on local space-time. The humans below had no idea their reality was being gently twisted and reshaped. The quantum resonance field is stabilizing, he reported to his captain. We should be able to test our dimensional phase theories without any risk to the local population. Captain Moore Tennis nodded absently. The Zephyrians had been experimenting with reality itself for millennia. Bending space and time was as natural to them as breathing. These tests would advance their understanding of the universe's deepest mysteries. The humans below were irrelevant to such important work. Begin phase displacement, Captain Moore-Tennis ordered. The Mindwalker's reality engines hummed to life. Space around New Eden began to shimmer like water in sunlight. For most species, this would have been invisible. The Zephyrians were working with forces beyond normal perception, but something went wrong. "Sir, dimensional breach detected," Dr. Venkalar announced. "The quantum field is destabilizing. Compensate with secondary stabilizers. Secondary stabilizers are offline. The breach is expanding." Captain Moore-Tennis felt a cold touch of fear. Dimensional breaches were dangerous even for his advanced people. "Emergency shutdown. All systems." "Too late, sir. The breach is reaching planetary surface." On the screen, they watched as a wave of distorted space-time swept across New Eden. Buildings flickered like mirages. The sky turned colors that had no names. Reality itself seemed to ripple and bend. When the wave passed, the human colony was gone, not destroyed. Not damaged, simply gone as if it had never existed. 50,000 humans had been erased from the universe in the space of a heartbeat. "Captain," Dr. Venkalar whispered, "the dimensional matrices show no trace of the colony. They've been completely displaced from normal spacetime. Can we retrieve them?" "Unknown. Possibly impossible." The displacement was random. They could be scattered across infinite dimensions. Captain Moore-Tennis studied the empty planet below, where a thriving human settlement had existed moments before. Only bare rock and native plants remained. It was as if the colonists had never been there at all. "This was an accident," he said finally. "The humans will understand. These things happen during advanced research." He was wrong about understanding. He was wrong about humans. He was wrong about everything that would happen next. The news reached Earth 18 hours later. Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen after her encounter with the Korvaxi, stood in the military command center watching the reports pour in. New Eden wasn't responding to communications. Long-range sensors showed no human life signs. The planet appeared uninhabited. "Confirmation from Deep Space Observatory," a technician reported. "Unknown vessel was detected in New Eden system prior to communication loss. Vessel departed 7 hours ago." Admiral Chen's face had grown hard over the months since losing 2 ship crews to alien aggression, but now her expression turned to stone. "Alien vessel?" "Yes, ma'am. Configuration matches no known human designs. Energy signatures consistent with the ships that attacked our exploration fleet." "They attacked New Eden?" "Appears so, ma'am." Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. Around her, military personnel waited for orders. Through the windows, she could see the lights of Earth's cities stretching to the horizon. 50 billion humans going about their daily lives. 50 billion humans who were about to learn that someone had just murdered their family. "Send a message to all human colonies and ships," she said quietly. "Priority Alpha. We are at war." What happened next amazed even the humans themselves. Within 6 hours, every human factory on Earth had stopped producing civilian goods. Assembly lines that made furniture began making weapon components. Plants that manufactured clothing switched to military uniforms. Food processing centers started producing rations for soldiers. No government had ordered this change. No emergency laws had been passed. The humans had simply decided, collectively and without discussion, that their entire civilization now had one purpose: war. Maria Santos had been a teacher on the Mars colony before the Korvaxi incident. Now she stood before a class of 8-year-old children, showing them how to load ammunition for pulse rifles. "The copper strips go here," she explained patiently. "Make sure they're aligned properly or the weapon won't fire." A small boy raised his hand. "Miss Santos, why are we learning this instead of reading?" "Because someone hurt our family, Tommy. And when someone hurts your family, everyone helps fight back. Even kids. Everyone." On Europa Station, 70-year-old Dr. Harrison Wells worked 20-hour shifts in the weapons laboratory. His arthritis made his hands shake, but he kept working anyway. The fusion reactors he designed weren't just power sources anymore. They were the hearts of the largest bombs humans had ever built. His granddaughter called from Earth every day, begging him to rest. "I can't rest, honey," he told her. New Eden had children. "Children like you." Someone made them disappear. "We have to make sure that never happens again." "But Grandpa, you're sick. You need to sleep." "I'll sleep when the people who hurt our family are gone." In the asteroid belt, mining crews worked around the clock to extract metals for warship hulls. They gave up their safety breaks, their recreational time, their sleep. When equipment broke down, they fixed it with their bare hands. Captain Lisa Park was the younger sister of James Park, who had died ramming his ship into the Korvaxi vessel. She commanded a mining crew of 30 people who had never seen combat. Now they were building weapons. "Why are we doing this?" one of her miners asked during a brief rest break. "We're not soldiers. We're just workers." "My brother died fighting aliens," Lisa replied. "Those same aliens or their friends just killed 50,000 people. Including children. Including families. But we don't even know how to fight. Then we'll learn. Because nobody hurts our people and gets away with it." The transformation wasn't limited to adults. In schools across human space, children as young as 5 were learning military history, basic engineering, and communications protocols. They sent drawings to soldiers. They collected scrap metal for recycling into armor. They wrote letters to the families of the missing colonists. A 6-year-old girl named Emma drew a picture of Earth surrounded by human spaceships. At the bottom, she wrote in careful letters, "Don't worry, New Eden, we're coming." Her teacher found her crying over the drawing. "What's wrong, Emma?" "The people on New Eden must be so scared," she whispered. "They're all alone and they don't know if anyone remembers them. We remember them. But how do they know we remember them? How do they know we're trying to help?" The teacher had no answer for that. But across human space, 50 billion people were working to provide, on the Galactic Council, received their first indication of the change. 3 weeks later, human activity has increased by 400%, reported the Korvaxi intelligence officer. All human colonies are now fortified. Their industrial output has shifted entirely to military production. "Expected response," Commander Thekvar commented. "They're preparing for retaliation. Sir, there's more. Human birth rates have actually increased since the New Eden incident, and their colonization efforts have accelerated. That makes no sense. Species under threat typically reduce reproduction and expansion. The humans appear to be doing the opposite. They're building more ships, establishing more colonies, having more children, as if they're trying to spread as widely as possible." Mind Unit 7 processed this information with growing alarm. They're not just preparing for war. They're preparing for species survival. They expect this conflict to threaten their entire civilization. "Impossible," Elder Zeph Kalis interjected. "We removed one minor colony through unfortunate accident. The logical response is diplomatic protest and perhaps limited military action." "Humans don't appear to think logically," Mind Unit 7 replied. "Our analysis suggests they view the New Eden incident as an attack on their entire species." "Why?" "Because to humans every colony is family. Every ship crew is family. Every individual is family." Commander Thekvar leaned forward. "You're saying they're mobilizing their entire civilization over 50,000 deaths?" "Affirmative. And according to our projections, they will not stop until either they are destroyed, or whoever they blame for New Eden is destroyed." "Who do they blame?" "Unknown. But their military preparations suggest they're preparing to fight all 3 of our empires simultaneously." The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Elder Zeph Kalis spoke. "Surely they realize such a war would be suicide. They cannot possibly win against our combined forces." "Human behavior suggests they don't care about winning," Mind Unit 7 reported quietly. "They care about protecting their pack, and their pack now includes every human alive, every human who might be born, and everyone they consider family." "How many is that?" Mind Unit 7 processed for several. The combined fleet was the largest armada in galactic history. 3,000 ships from 3 empires that had never before fought side by side. Korvaxi battle cruisers with their red hulls gleaming like fresh blood. Ethereal war machines that existed partially outside reality itself. Zephyrian vessels that could attack minds as well as bodies. They had gathered at the edge of human space to end a threat before it could spread further. Supreme Commander Thekvar stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Victory, watching the human fleet approach on his tactical display. 200 ships, primitive by galactic standards, outnumbered 15 to 1. It should have been over before it began. Human vessels entering weapons range, his tactical officer reported. "Open communications," Thekvar ordered. One final chance for surrender. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the lead human vessel. Admiral Sarah Chen looked older than in her previous encounters with the Korvaxi. Her hair had turned gray. Lines of stress marked her face, but her eyes still burned with that incomprehensible fire. "This is Admiral Chen of the Human Defense Fleet," she said. "You have one opportunity to return the people you stole from New Eden." The New Eden incident was an accident. Elder Zeph Callus's voice came through the communication system. "My people meant no harm to your colonists." "Your people erased 50,000 humans from existence," Chen replied. "Accidents have consequences." "Admiral," Mind Unit 7 added, "your fleet cannot hope to defeat our combined forces. Surrender now and we will discuss terms for your people's survival." Chen's expression didn't change. "We didn't come here to win. We came here to teach you something." "Teach us what?" "That some things are worth dying for." The communication ended. Thekvar studied the human formation. Their ships were arranged in a pattern he didn't recognize. Not the standard attack formations taught in military academies. Something else entirely. "Analysis of human fleet deployment?" he asked. "Unknown configuration," his tactical officer replied. "Their formation appears to prioritize ship survivability over offensive capability." "They're trying to minimize casualties?" "Negative, sir. They appear to be trying to maximize the time each ship can remain in combat before being destroyed." Thekvar felt a chill run down his spine. The humans weren't trying to win quickly. They were trying to make the battle last as long as possible. They wanted to hurt the Allied fleet as much as they could before dying. "All ships, open fire," Thekvar commanded. The combined fleet unleashed hell. Energy beams capable of cracking moons reached across space toward the human ships. Weapons that could destroy entire cities fired in coordinated volleys. The darkness between the fleets lit up like a new star being born. The human ships scattered, but they didn't retreat. Individual vessels broke formation and accelerated toward different sections of the Allied fleet. They fired their primitive weapons while diving into the heart of the enemy formation. When their shields failed, they kept fighting. When their weapons were destroyed, they used their ships as battering rams. "What are they doing?" Thekvar demanded as he watched human vessels diving straight into his formation. "They appear to be attempting to engage us in close combat," his tactical officer replied. "That's suicide." "Yes, sir." But the human tactic was working. The Allied fleet was designed to fight at long range. Their ships were massive and powerful, but they couldn't maneuver quickly in close quarters. When human vessels got close enough, the Allied ships risked hitting each other with their own weapons, and the humans kept getting close. The destroyer Lightning Rod, commanded by Captain Maria Santos, dove through a formation of ethereal vessels. Her ship was already burning, its hull cracked open in 3 places. But she kept firing. "Ma'am, we've lost main power," her engineering officer reported. "Switch to backup power. Backup power is gone. We're running on emergency batteries." "Then we ram them, ma'am." Santos pointed at the largest ethereal ship. "That one. Set course to ram. Captain, the crew. The crew understands." Santos activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We're going to hit them where it hurts. It's been an honor serving with you." The lightning rod accelerated toward the ethereal vessel. Its reactor began to overload just like the Pathfinder and Discovery had done months before. But this time, there were 200 human ships doing the same thing. "Sir?" Thekvar's communication officer called out. "We're receiving transmissions from the human fleet." "Put them through." The main screen split into dozens of smaller images. Each one showed the bridge of a different human ship. Men and women of all ages, many of them wounded, all of them still fighting. "This is Captain Williams of the Defiance," one of them said. "New Eden sends its regards." "This is Captain Park of the Vengeance," said another. "My brother died fighting you. Today I join him." "This is Commander Davis of the Retribution. See you in hell." One by one the human ships struck home. The destroyer Courage rammed itself into a Korvaxi battlecruiser. The explosion tore through both vessels, killing everyone aboard. The frigate Hope dove into a formation of Zephyrian fighters. Its self-destruct took out 6 enemy ships. The cruiser Faith accelerated to maximum speed before striking an ethereal command vessel. The impact sent shockwaves through the entire Allied formation. "Damage reports," Thekvar called out. 47 ships lost or severely damaged, his tactical officer replied. "The humans have lost 80% of their fleet." "Then we're winning." Sir, the remaining human ships are regrouping for another attack run. Thekvar looked at his display. 40 human ships remained. They were battered, burning, falling apart, but they were still coming. This is madness, he whispered. On the Eternal Victories communication system, Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the static. All human ships, this is Admiral Chen, we've hurt them. Now finish it. The remaining 40 ships accelerated toward the Allied fleet, but something had changed in the Allied formation. Thekvar could see it in his crew's faces. They had just watched 200 small ships inflict massive damage on the most powerful fleet in galactic history. Not through superior technology or clever tactics, but through sheer willingness to die. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, the crew is requesting permission to withdraw. Withdraw? We're winning. Sir, the humans aren't fighting to win. They're fighting to hurt us as much as possible before they die. Even if we destroy them all, we'll lose half our fleet. Thekvar realized the tactical officer was right. The humans had already inflicted unacceptable casualties. If the remaining 40 ships followed the same pattern, the Allied fleet would be crippled, and there would be more human fleets coming. Open a channel to Admiral Chen, he ordered. Chen's face appeared on the screen. Her ship was badly damaged, but she was still alive. Admiral, Thekvar said, you cannot win this battle. We already have, she replied. You've lost 80% of your fleet. And you've learned that fighting humans is expensive. Very expensive. How many fleets can you afford to lose? Thekvar didn't answer. He couldn't answer. Because the truth was, the Allied empires couldn't afford to lose any more fleets like this. They had other enemies, other borders to defend. They couldn't sacrifice their entire military to destroy one small species. What do you want? He asked finally. Are people back? All of them. The ones your accident displaced. That may not be possible. Then you have a problem. Because we're not going to stop coming. We'll keep sending fleets until either our people come home, or there's nothing left of any of us. Elder Zeph Callus's voice joined the conversation. Admiral, surely you understand the cost of such a war. Your entire species could be destroyed. Our species is already under attack, Chen replied. You've taught us that being peaceful doesn't keep us safe. You've taught us that the only thing that matters is being strong enough to protect our family. We could offer compensation, Mind Unit 7 suggested. Resources, technology, territory. We don't want your technology. We don't want your territory. We want our people. And if we cannot return them? Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft but absolutely certain. Then we'll make sure the galaxy remembers what you did to them. We'll tell every species we meet about the empires that murder colonies for scientific experiments. We'll make friends with every small civilization you've been bullying. We'll teach them to fight the way we fight. That would be war against the entire galactic order. Yes. The communication channel fell silent. Thekvar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders. They had just heard a species of primitives declare war against galactic civilization itself. And somehow, it didn't sound like an empty threat. Sir, his tactical officer whispered, what are your orders? Thekvar studied the human fleet. 40 ships against 3,000. It should have been a joke. Instead, it was a nightmare, because the humans had revealed something the galaxy had forgotten in its long climb towards civilization. Sometimes, the strongest weapon wasn't the biggest gun or the smartest computer. Sometimes, the strongest weapon was loving something more than you loved your own life. Signal the fleet.